All right, week 3 NFL tier list as we're going into week 3, 2 weeks of the NFL season down. After week 1, did your boy overreact a little bit? It's possible. It's possible your boy went too low on the Lions. We're going to correct that today. But I just want to make everybody clear that going into this tier list, my goal is to not overreact so much because listen, it may have happened to me in week 1. We're going to start, of course, with the 2026 mock draft season tier as always. The Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins play on Thursday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills this week. Their spread is 13.5 for that game. So 2 touchdowns is what Vegas is giving the Bills. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 4 and we see Mike McDaniel fired and Tyreek Hill traded. I'm completely out on the Miami Dolphins at this point in time. The Tennessee Titans, I do think Cam Ward actually could be the guy there, but ultimately I just think that the team is too chalked at this point. I don't think that they have a real run game. They can hand the ball off to Tony Pollard as much as they want. The receiving weapons, it's not there for Cam Ward, and the defense isn't quite what it was last year. Cleveland Browns, we kind of all knew that the Browns were a dumpster fire coming into the year. They don't have a true quarterback situation. Joe Flacco's their best option. I am excited to see more of Judkins going forward, and the defense obviously has Myles Garrett, but it's the Browns. We know what the Cleveland Browns are at this point. The New Orleans Saints, Kellen Moore, I do think could be the good coach of the future there, and the defense isn't the worst in the world, but Spencer Rattler and those weapons, they might be in some competitive games week to week, but ultimately I think we're going to see a lot of what we've seen the first couple weeks, 2, maybe 3 touchdowns, and ultimately a loss for that team. The New York Football Giants are in this tier. Russell Wilson absolutely balled out, and that game versus Dallas was one of the most fun games of the week, if not the most fun. 41 points scored in the fourth quarter, and Russell Wilson probably extends his career another few games with that game. But the Giants aren't making noise, man. They're not going to be one of the 0-2 teams to turn it around and make the playoffs. And then the Carolina Panthers might be the worst team in football. The last quarter and a half versus Arizona of inspired Panthers football and Bryce Young looking like the Bryce Young we saw in the second half of last year maybe is enough to give Panthers fans hope, but that defense is not it. It is hot buns. Up into the Frisky tier, and I'm going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals, man. The Joe Burrow injury is absolutely brutal for this team. The best case scenario, seeming like 3 months of recovery, could get him back by mid-December. Jake Browning has a 5-3 record as the Bengals starter in his career. They're already 2-0. The only reason that this team is not already in the mock draft season is because if the guy goes 2 games under 500, but the team is 7-7, and Joe Burrow could come back, I could believe that they could make the playoffs at the end of the season. They are like just barely hanging on to that thread of Frisky because of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and the success Browning has had. The New York Jets, they're still frisky. I still think week to week that defense could give teams trouble. Buffalo is just an absolute jug at this point. They were competitive with a team like Pittsburgh. They run into Tampa Bay this week, but I do think the Jets against playoff team, fringe playoff team caliber guys are going to give them tougher weeks. I got New England still as frisky. They beat the Dolphins, and if they had lost to the Dolphins, they would have fallen into the mock draft season tier, but a close game with the Dolphins isn't exactly something to be happy about. Drake May did look good, but against that Dolphins defense, it'd be hard to not look good. I got the Jags as well in the frisky tier. 1-1 now, but some really bad energy going around. Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen having arguments because Liam Cohen's like, hey, throw the ball to the receiver's chest, man. You've been a quarterback for a minute here. And Trevor Lawrence is like, get out of here. Brian Thomas is like, I'm not taking a hit. I'm not trying to catch the football. Pass interference. Jake Browning comes in the game, throws 3 interceptions. You still lose. The vibes are terrible in Jacksonville. The Dallas Cowboys, man, the Cowboys are now the Bengals. Like, now that Joe Burrow's hurt, the Cowboys will be the fun Bengals watch. The defense won't be able to stop anybody. Dak and CeeDee and them guys and Pickens are going to have to throw all game. Brandon Aubrey is probably going to hit a 70-yard field goal this season. Like, the Cowboys are going to be a fun watch. I don't think they're going to do shit, but I think that they're going to be a fun watch. And the Chicago Bears, these 2 teams play each other this weekend. Honestly, if Dallas beats Chicago might be moving down to mock draft season. It's a must win for Chicago this week, but I personally thought the offense improved. I thought Caleb looked a little bit better. Rome Odunze looks like a star. The defense just got hit by fucking freight train that was the Detroit Lions pissed off. And, we'll see. Is that more of a Lion story, more of a Bear story? Again, one of those week 2 things that I don't want to jump to the conclusion immediately and just say Chicago season's over, but this week's must win. The Fringe Playoff team tier, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders got mollywopped on Monday Night Football. Geno Smith, I think we saw the worst of Geno Smith. The Chargers defense is freaking nice, but this is the limited ceiling of this team against AFC West opponents and good AFC quarterbacks. Geno's just not going to be able to outduel those guys. They got to lean more on Genty, more on the run. I think last night's game, again, was just kind of more about how good the Chargers are, and we're going to talk about that. But the Raiders, they might squeeze in an AFC playoff picture as the Indianapolis Colts, man. I don't want to overreact too much because the Saints looked like this to open up last year, but to me, the Colts feel a little bit different than New Orleans. Daniel Jones. Maybe we should start an apology tour. I don't know. I think that Jonathan Taylor is the engine that drives the offense. Shane Steichen finally has a quarterback that, hey, the slant route that's open 5 yards in front of you, can you hit that? Cool. We could keep the ball moving then. Tyler Warren, a defense that's pretty decent, an offensive line that's solid. You just brought in a field general. Now, I do wonder if Denver hadn't shot themselves in the foot and the Colts were 1-1 instead of 2-0 off of what a really weird ending to that game it was, how we would be looking at the Colts. But at the end of the day, we're here through 2 weeks. They are 2-0. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers in this tier too. Rodgers is actually playing pretty good football. I didn't think that this would be the case coming into the season. And Pittsburgh's lack of ability to run the ball, that was kind of evident, but their defense has been bad, man. Like a defense that has TJ Watt, Patrick Queen, Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter, Mike Tomlins. It's just been bad through 2 weeks. And can Pittsburgh clean that up? Absolutely. I think that they can. They certainly have the talent to do so. I'm not going to judge them solely on 2 weeks, but it's just not where I thought we would be through 2 weeks with Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers is playing great football, but the defense and some of the receivers are kind of letting him down. That weird special teams play with Caleb Johnson. Calvin Austin dives for a ball, bats it up in the air and gets interception. Like weird game for Pittsburgh. And I'm putting Seattle in the same tier. I know Seattle won the game by 2 touchdowns, but I just mentioned why it's so weird. I do think that there are still limitations to Seattle's offense, and just because they moved the ball against Pittsburgh, I do think it was more of an indictment on the Steelers. Ken Walker looked to be healthy, though, and I do think Seattle's defense is good enough to keep them in plenty of games this year. I'm moving the Minnesota Vikings all the way down to this tier. I thought that at the end of that Monday Night Football game with J.J. McCarthy leading that comeback versus the Bears, like that was the start of something. And I know that the offensive line was hurt. I'm at a 10 out of 10 panic meter on J.J. McCarthy. I'm not saying that this is the case. I'm just saying it's not the case that this is a phantom ankle sprain and that they want J.J. McCarthy to get a couple of weeks off because he ain't ready for prime time. I got the Arizona Cardinals in this tier. They're 2-0, but it's against New Orleans and Carolina, and both are one-score games. At the end of the day, I respect the record, and the defense is solid, and Kyler has only made like one pretty disastrous mistake in that Carolina game, but I just don't know if I could fully buy into this team off of those 2 wins. Like, they're getting the job done against who they're supposed to, but the Cardinals got to do more to earn my trust. And then I still got the Atlanta Falcons in this tier. Again, I thought that game versus Minnesota was more of an indictment on them. The Falcons offense is still just out the pistol, hand the ball to Bijan, and run it down your throat. It was just successful versus Minnesota. We move into the playoff team tier, and we're starting with the Denver Broncos. I still have the Broncos a tier above the Colts because I do think 9 times out of 10, Denver holds on to win that game. They just really were sloppy and shot themselves in the foot. Big matchup with the Chargers coming up this week. I think Bo Nix and that offense will figure it out. It looks like Troy Franklin might be a piece. I do think that Dobbins and RJ Harvey, like the offense is 2-dimensional, which does matter a lot to me. I still trust the defensive personnel. I think the 1-1 record could very easily be 2-0, and there wouldn't be all this chatter about, oh, are you worried about the Denver Broncos? I'm still putting Houston in this tier. I know that they're 0-2. I don't want to overreact. The Rams, Ravens, and Broncos all started 0-2 last year and made the playoffs. Houston, for the last 2 years, they've won that division. They've won a playoff game. The offense is a bit concerning, what we're seeing, absolutely. They have 0 run game, and that needs to be resolved immediately. They play Jacksonville this week in a must-win game. If things go south in that game, then we'll react appropriately and start moving Houston down. But I'm still going to believe in how good this defense is. Will Anderson Jr. had like 10 pressures last night on Baker Mayfield. It took Baker doing what Baker does in the fourth quarter of that game on one final drive. If that hadn't happened and they had gotten that fourth down start, again, I don't think that this worry about Houston would be there. I get it, 0-2 sucks, but I'm trying not to overreact here to this game. San Francisco, 2-0. Kyle Shanahan, he just gives you such a baseline floor. And Mac Jones's game was great. It was against New Orleans, so take it with that grain of salt. But the 49ers have a cupcake schedule this year. It's why I picked them to win their division. It's why I think that they're a lock to win double-digit games. With Kittle out, with Ayuk out, with Purdy out, with Trent Williams banged up, still 2-0 to open up the season on 2 road games. It's pretty impressive, to be honest. And I got Washington this year. Jaden Daniels dealing with a knee injury. I think this game versus the Raiders is big because Washington didn't look super impressive in week 1 against the Giants. They didn't move the ball at will. And then obviously on Thursday Night Football, they got trounced by Green Bay, which could very well be more of a Green Bay story. I'm going to keep Washington just as a regular playoff team until we kind of figure out where they are. Super Bowl contenders tier. I'm starting with the Los Angeles Chargers, man. The Chargers, I said it last week. Some people thought I went overboard and, crowned them too early. Justin Herbert is playing like an MVP candidate to open the year. I think all the people that said Justin Herbert is the top 5 quarterback were wrong previously, but they might finally be right. And don't let those people lie to you. Don't let them tell you that, oh, I was right all along. No, Justin Herbert took a leap this year. The mobility is there, the progressions is, he's just playing like a better quarterback this season. It's just that simple. The physical tools were always there. This potential was there, but we're starting to see it fire on all cylinders, and they have one of the best defenses in football still. I got Kansas City as a Super Bowl contender. I know they're 0-2. Listen. You got Mahomes and Andy Reid. I don't know if I could drop you below Super Bowl contender. They've been to the last 3 or the last 5. An 0-2 start isn't enough. Maybe if they lose to the Giants, we could hit the panic meter, but at this point in time, it's still Kansas City. There are still flaws with this team that I pointed out all offseason. The run game is non-existent. The offensive line, I don't know if it's better. I think that it's better in certain spots, worse in others, and the defense has to blitz to generate a pass rush. Everything is at the feet of Mahomes right now, and they are going to start off slow to open the year. You still have games against Baltimore and Detroit without Rashee Rice, so it's very possible when Rice gets back that this is a 2-4 football team. But even then, I just refuse to count out Mahomes and the Chiefs at this point in time. You call me crazy if you want, but I just can't drop them any lower, to be completely honest with you guys. I got the Rams in this tier as well. The Rams pass rush has been real legit this year. I'm excited to see what that D-line could do against Philly. I think this is a real big statement game for them because having success against Houston and Tennessee is one thing, but if you have that level of success against a Philly offensive line, it's something to really talk about. Stafford, the back injury all offseason, is he not healthy? Looks pretty good to me, man. Puka, Devontae Adams, you know what those guys are going to produce. Oh, big show. Got the Buccaneers up in a Super Bowl contending tier. Baker, you guys know that was my MVP pick to open the year. Big Show leads another fourth quarter game-winning drive. Outmanned in terms of, he doesn't have Godwin, he doesn't have McMillan. His starting left tackle, Tristan Wirfs, has missed the first 2 games, and then they've moved his center over to left tackle. So backup left tackle, backup center, 2 wide receivers missing. Guys get hurt on the defense in mid-game. Doesn't matter. Baker lead us to the victory, and he does just that. And I got the Detroit Lions back up in the Super Bowl contenders tier, man. I do have a little bit of question as to week 1, you get absolutely destroyed by Green Bay. Week 2, you beat the piss out of the Bears. Is there a middle ground? We get to see them play Baltimore this week. As long as it's a competitive game, I think I'll feel the same way about Detroit. In week 1 was just an overreaction from me, to be honest. There's just so much talent on this squad. And then we get to the Super Bowl favorites tier. We got the Baltimore Ravens in this tier. They lost to Buffalo in week 1, 41-40, bounce back, dominate the Cleveland Browns. You still got Lamar, Derrick Henry. The defense is loaded with talent. They're going to be fine. Buffalo, I got up in this tier. Again, game of the year, potentially Sunday Night Football versus Baltimore. Both of those teams followed that up with dominating victories against just absolute dog water franchises in the Jets and Browns. It's what you expect them to do. Allen and Lamar, MVP caliber players. I got Philly here. listen, it's been ugly. The passing attack is non-existent. They're the first team to start off 2-0 without a passing touchdown in the first 2 weeks in 25 years. But to be honest, they're 2-0. If the defense looks legit, you still have Saquon. If the team figures out a passing attack, then what do they look like? And Green Bay, you could argue through 2 weeks, they've been the most dominant team in the NFL. The defense is absolutely legit. Back-to-back weeks, they shut down Detroit, shut down Washington. Two offenses that averaged more than 30 points per game last year did nothing against that team until garbage time. Micah has clearly been a difference maker. And the offense is two-dimensional. Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Matt LaFleur. Super Bowl favorites, man. Consistency on the tier list already through the first 2 weeks. You love to see it. These are my tiers as we head into week 3. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you love the NFL and you're not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit that button, hit the like button. I'll catch you next time. Peace.